Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue, and CM Punk has been convinced to suck the proverbial blood money covered dick by Triple H and the WWE. He owes The Miz one hell of an apology, first and foremost, so probably worth mentioning on that one, but when it comes to the good old-fashioned world of whatever the hell WWE is, CM Punk is officially so locked in that he is now going to Saudi Arabia because he signed a deal stating that if it made storyline sense, away he would have to go. Our top story today will be as regards one last time between John Cena and CM Punk. I've also got plenty more that we're going to be covering. We're going to be talking Evolution plans for Jade Cargill. There are dueling reports on this one. Shawn Michaels having a favourite from Worlds Collide. We're going to talk Goldberg. We're going to talk Bianca Belair plans for Summerslam, as well as Bella's plans for Evolution. We're going to talk about Jimmy Uso and what's next after having lost the championship. We're going to talk about, yes, what is being reported as about to turn up to join the Bloodline on SmackDown, and we're going to have a few small previews of action coming for SummerSlam. Big thank you to Martin via Two Sides Horsey City Forever and the Mancunian Way for renewing memberships on YouTube. Thank you very kindly for your continued generosity. We are live on both TikTok and YouTube right now. YouTube has just started going. We have 54 people already watching. Thank you, Declan, Marcel, and others for dropping the chat rate and just getting the chat going. We also have a couple of people already hitting like on the TikTok. Thank you as well. Thank you, Erin, for renewing your subscription there for a 7th month. We will start, of course, with Triple H convincing CM Punk to work Saudi Arabia. Hell truly has finally frozen over. Completely. Hell has frozen over. And Ed is sending gifts. That is 6 gifts already. Thank you very kindly, Ed. I'm guessing someone is looking for 2 squats to start the show. For those who don't know, what we tend to do here, and I'll actually start the goal going. For every super chat, for every dollar, for every pound, what I do is 1 squat. So 1 squat per £1 or $1. Over on the TikTok side, every 5 gifts, we do the same. So I'm rounding you up there, Ed, because I don't think you went quite there, but doesn't matter because you're helping support the channel and I'm very grateful for it. So 2 quick squats to get the... It's not going to be 2, is it? Because Martin's already all over it. 2 quick squats. Do apologise for this. Also, do you like the t-shirt? Good old-fashioned Pokemon. For Ed, that hurt. 1 and 2. And now for Martin. Says, thank you for all the time. You're news and reliable. Smash those likes. Thank you, Martin. A very generous £10 donation. Already 6 people hitting like on that. Thank you, everyone. That is 10 more squats, and we're going to do these right now because we're still at the start of the show. So I might as well do it while my knees work, because eventually, as we know, they're not going to. There's 1. My knees still haven't really recovered from the 275, but they're not going to get stronger if I sit on my bottom, are they? If we do quite a lot of squats, or in which I owe quite a lot of squats, I will be making a video about it. There is still an unlisted video at the moment that will eventually be joining the members only. Thank you kindly both. Before we even dive into the news, and we've got plenty enough to be diving into. Thank you very much, Martin, for your continued support of the channel, and of course thank you very much, Ed, for much the same. The work to convince CM Punk to take wrestling matches on in Saudi Arabia started properly about a year ago. The WWE were negotiating a new deal for CM Punk in the build-up to last year's Survivor Series because he had essentially impressed them way more than they originally expected. CM Punk is extremely popular backstage, And his wrestling matches, naturally his feud with Drew McIntyre in particular, were gaining rave reviews. Because of this, all of the clauses that they put into his original contract, essentially stating, if things go wrong, it's on you, not on us, no longer really applied. And because it no longer really applied, a new deal was struck. There is a significant increase in the money for CM Punk, but most importantly, there was a clause inserted, essentially saying, if the storyline warranted it, CM Punk would be required to work in Saudi Arabia. Now, CM Punk was not thrilled with the concept. It does mean essentially eating his words, and CM Punk infamously not the best when it comes to humility. He does owe The Miz an apology. But it's not just Triple H that made the decision. Triple H, yes, convinced CM Punk to work Saudi Arabia by giving him a direct storyline reason. He's also been promised the ability to explain why he needs to be convinced on a live microphone. However, John Cena was also heavily involved in this. John Cena versus CM Punk is said to have been too big to miss out on, though Punk himself will have to do most of the heavy lifting in the feud incoming. Punk himself isn't thrilled to be going to Saudi Arabia, but contractually, Triple H has got him by the short and curly. So this, backstage, is being considered a big win for Triple H, a sign of future humility by CM Punk, and hopefully, going forwards, there will no longer be any reason for anyone to turn down Saudi Arabia. The thinking by WWE officials is that if CM Punk is going, everyone needs to go. Everything must go. Martin hasn't stopped there. He's donated another £5 with an emoji of a high five. Thank you as always. A continued generosity that continues its outpouring. Thank you, pardon me, very kindly. We will, of course, be doing 5 more. So 5 more squats. We've done 12 so far. I need to get my body in shape. Thank you to everyone for making it happen. 5 more squats. The 275, still painful, but every little does help. And every squat I do strengthens my knees. Hopefully. If not, then what the hell are we doing living at all? Right, that was our first piece of news. We will be catching up with the chat as best we can, and then we'll be following up with our next piece of news. Thank you. Okay, so that's actually, you're the second person saying that. Pete, I think you mentioned it as well. Is anyone else experiencing the lag that Martin and Pete are experiencing? Any lag from anyone? Sledgehammer also saying that. Okay, let me just quickly have a look and see what I can do about that. I do have some options. Just basically closing a few things down. That's not what I was looking for. Couple of people having no lag. Lovely. Okay, thank you very much, guys. I've shut down a few background processes anyway, just in case. And hopefully that'll do the job for everyone. And mean that we're a bit more in sync, as it were. Yep, that's brought CPU usage down from about 20% to 8.8. So hopefully that should make an impact. Right, so where were we? Ed says, I guess CM Punk will know what the blood money covered phallus will taste like that he asked The Miz. Yep, I mean, he owes some apologies. Harris says, do you think we see Hikulio tonight? More on that later. Bob John says, support him from Turkmenistan. Tom, keep up the good work. Thank you very kindly. Ralphie says, Jay's in the King of the Ring. Pierce announced he's taking the mystery spot in the 4-way. Yes, he is. And that could mean that we get another rematch between Gunther and Jey Uso, and they just do a lot of rotations. Why the hell not? R says Charlie. R with dinosaurs. Dinosaur. Anyway, moving on. We still have plenty of YouTube to catch up on, so I'm going to try that as best I can. Thank you, Liam, dropping the plan for SmackDown tonight. What's already been announced. It says 2025 King and Queen of the Ring tournament matches tonight on SmackDown. Damian Priest versus Cody Rhodes versus Shinsuke Nakamura versus Andrade. Legitimately, there's only 2 of those that actually have a chance here. And on the women's side, Chelsea Green versus Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair versus Candice LeRae. I'm going to find it difficult to look past Cody and Charlotte, though I will say Chelsea Green for me would be a lot more fun. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you Leon, welcome to the show. Unique Unicorn says, howdy Tom, and a howdy to you too. Liam says, Omos shares that he has signed a new multi-year deal with WWE via iGaming Newswire. Thank you for sourcing and sharing there, Liam. Noob says, hello Mr. Colohue. How are you doing today? What are your thoughts on Asuka's return this coming week on Raw? Some people are excited for it while everyone else is upset that WWE had spoiled her return. With the amount of news that gets leaked, WWE kind of has to spoil everything themselves, because if they don't, well, people are kind of going to spoil it for them. If Asuka's incoming, I'm excited. I am. I'm glad she's back. Sean says, hello Tom. Hello Sean, good to see you. Bob John is suggesting that the semi-finals will be Cody versus Jay and Randy versus Sammy. Great way to get to a Cody versus Randy Orton. That'll be a lot of fun. Bear with me, guys. I'm just going to do a sneeze. Or in this case, several. Leighton, why not? I can always say happy birthday to people, and a happy birthday indeed. Michael says, can't say I think hell froze over. I think Punk is a fraud. Certainly the fact that he's changed his mind opens a lot of questions up. Declan says, I'd love to see Becky Lynch winning the United States Championship to elevate that title. You mean like in addition to the one that she's already doing exactly that with? Ooh. Chris says, maybe you should save them up and do Squat Saturday. I mean, I could. But if I do that, chances are there's going to be a lot saved up. And that's going to make me real nervous. Real nervous. Can see plenty of people dropping information in the chat. I can see them sourcing as well, which I very much appreciate. Paul says, Vince Russo said Triple H should be fired because he listened to the marks to re-sign R-Truth. As a general rule, anything that Vince Russo says, the opposite is the actual truth. It's the general rule. Sean says, who is your prediction for the Queen of the Ring finals, Tom? Mine is Roxanne versus Alexa. Roxanne seems like a good option and an easy win. And of course, they do both be Code Red. But then so does Alina. Oh, yeah. Martin, I go through Streamlabs. Then that pumps into the studio. So mine is connected directly to YouTube Studio. I can see everything on Streamlabs there, and I can see everything on the studio here, which is where I'm reading the chat from. We will be discussing that shortly, Bob John. Plenty more news to share as regards the imminent return of Goldberg. Unique Unicorn suggests we watch The Pig. Declan says, I've already read that one. Roy says, the TNA men's roster are not happy. The Trick Williams is a TNA champion because he doesn't work for TNA. What's your source on that one, Roy? Cecil has already hit like and boosting the chat rate. Says, hello, Tom Colohue and chat. Welcome, Cecil. On the YouTube side, we currently have 83 people and only the 31 likes. Please do check if you've already hit thumbs up. On the TikTok side, plenty of people already joining. We have 8 people watching right now. 776 likes already. 776 likes. Nothing to sniff at. KJ says, do you know who initially was the one who chose not to renew Truth? Nick Khan. I've shared this previously, but it is Nick Khan who decided not to renew the contract for R-Truth. A contract offer was made, but it was significantly lower than the current deal that R-Truth has. Or should I say, Ron Killings. Thank you, Declan. Ashley says, Tom, what's the odds Mr. Iguana is a surprise 4th person? I believe, based on what people are saying, it is going to be Jey Uso instead. Sean says, thoughts on Mariah May's new name, Tom? Blake Monroe. What's wrong with Mariah May? I mean, she's been wrestling under that for years. Why not? The other Mike says, Punk is not a fraud. He just changed his mind. What's wrong with changing your mind? Which is a fair question. And I do think we should always leave room for people to learn differently. Learn differently. The other Mike, that might be the case for you. I'm still not watching the Saudi shows, just as a rule. Marcel says, I thought Seth would cash in on Monday, but I guess we'll have to be patient a little longer. Seems so, yes. Gotcha, Martin. Yeah, that does not sound fun at all. Welcome, Wayne, says hello, Tom on YouTube and first time on the TikTok. Welcome, good to see you, mate. Welcome to the other side, as it were. Ed says the trick thing is just a storyline from what I've seen, unless I missed some news. To be fair, Ed, you would know. You, after all, interview former NXT talent. For those that don't know, check out more of Ed's stuff. Khalid says, great to see you again, mate. Can't wait to see the Wide Six and what they have in store for us tonight. Welcome, Khalid. Good to see you too. JC says, that's not all Punk changes mind on. Men in their later 40s don't suddenly grow giant traps while being straight edge. I mean, speak for yourself. I think of like the lead singer of Camelot who suddenly became buff as hell. The suggestion seems to be that once you reach a certain age, you suddenly have free time again. And can I please reach that age? Because I've gone in the very opposite direction. Yes, Michael. So I discussed Mr. Iguana before and the talent swap that WWE is speaking about. Yeah, there you go. You're absolutely right, Michael. That is indeed what is happening. The WWE are engaging in a talent swap with AAA talent, with TNA talent, and of course, with WWE talent. Unique Unicorn says, hopefully Bayley takes the championship from Becky. I don't see that, unfortunately. Liam says, Triple H reportedly made the call to have Jey Uso lose the World Heavyweight Championship as he wanted Gunther vs Goldberg to be for the title. The match is set to take place at Saturday Night Main Event. Source, Wrestling Observer News. It always surprises me when someone reports that the guy who decided what creative would be is the guy who's in charge of creative. Sean says, according to Fightful, Kiana James is backstage at SmackDown. It would be weird to debut her now. It's almost like you've taken too long. It'd be very strange. They were Bayley. Initially, no women were allowed after all. Hey, Kelly, good to see you. Declan says, I'm going to be bored of the Becky vs. Bayley feud. I've already seen it thousands of times. Well, did you enjoy the Lyra Valkyria feud? Jacko Robertson says, hi, how are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you. Welcome to the chat. Declan and Bayley both pointing out that yes, I did indeed get myself some cherry coke. What can I say? I'm nothing if not predictable. Unique Unicorn prefers cherry Pepsi, and as such, you are dead to me. Obviously not really, but I'm a cherry coke guy. Eric says, the Summer of Judgment Day is in full swing. At what time do you see Finn challenging Dom? Not to bury the lead, but around SummerSlam time, work is already started. Ed says, it was great fun talking to Javier Bernal last week for our local establishment. One says, hey Tom, according to Dave Meltzer, he reported private parties AEW contracts are up soon. Thoughts? Haven't heard it, can't confirm it. Unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, you weren't wrong, SNH. That's what I thought was going to happen. Thankfully, the wonder of wrestling is that I still sometimes get surprised. I'm okay with it. Hello, McCade. Good to see you. Thank you for correcting the name there. XX user XX says, huh? And then, good evening. Bob John says, will CM Punk be on SmackDown tonight? I expect not, particularly with John Cena having so few dates. CM Punk is going to have to carry most of that feud. Bob John says, do you see Cena getting involved in the Cody Fatal 4-Way costing Cody? No, I see him moving on pretty firmly before coming back to Cody at SummerSlam. I think we're starting to see how that's going to happen. Declan did enjoy the Lyra versus Becky feud. Martin says, time for the old times, mate. Lurking time while I drive. The good old times. The podcast. Wonderful times. Sean says, Rikishi complained about Jay losing, said Jay should have been champion for 10 years. Of course he did. That's his kid. If my kid was champion, you better believe I'd have been doing everything possible to get them over. We are indeed talking about wrestling. Mickey says, I've seen reports that the draft is coming after SummerSlam. Has anything plans-wise changed? No. Apart from the fact that they've continually pushed it back and essentially cancelled it for now, they are considering some options. Nothing is set in stone. John says, you're excited for Asuka and Stephanie to be in the same match on Raw? Also, do you see Asuka returning as a face or heel? At the moment, very much a face. 3 years? Jesus, Martin. That is forever. It looks like almost all of tonight's show has been spoiled based on what's been dropped in the chat right now. Talk now from Khalid of Randy Orton being back tonight. What's your thoughts on that one, Khalid? Bob John, there's plenty of options available. I suppose we'll see if Goldberg wins it. Martin says, keep smashing those likes and keep that chat rate going all. See you all Friday. Thank you very kindly, sir, for dropping in. And, of course, your generosity. Michael says, Wrestling Observer News is reporting that Konosuke Takeshita will be in the G1. Makes for some really good matchups. Sid says, were you a fan of the Yeet movement? All the people was in the ring to help get a match for Bryan Danielson to get a match with Triple H. Oh, the Yes movement. Yes and Yeet are very, very similar words. Was okay. Wasn't really watching at the time. SNH thinks we're going to get Sammy versus Cody at Night of Champions. Juan says, Timeless Tony Storm has pitched a kiss with Mercedes Money during their match at All In. Cringe or part of the character for Tony? Part of the character for Tony. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing. She knows whose emotion she's playing with. Mercedes Money's. Hector says, CM Punk's relationship with Triple H went from toxic to him not only coming back to WWE, but Triple H also convincing him to wrestle in Saudi. Pardon me. Nothing will surprise me going forward because Triple H is convincing AF. Thank you, Unique. Pratik says, why WWE is using the same white ropes in every PLE? The white ropes are designed to draw extra attention to the sponsored mat. The Rabbit says, WWE announced Randy's in a fatal 4-way tonight, Tom, for King of the Ring. Thank you very kindly. I was taking one of my children to sport. Pratik says, why... I've already read that one. Sid says, would you like to see Goldberg get one more run in wrestling? No. Can't stand them up. Bob John says, what more does LA Knight need to do? I mean, he's basically picking fights with Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins right now. Pretty good spot to be in. And Ed says, Rikishi is a salty, salty dad on his podcast. Like a sexy boy, but a salty boy. Declan says, why is WWE booking Io's championship reign with no opponents, while Becky is elevating the mid-card women's championship and being on PLE, while Io hasn't? Because most of the people who would have been working with Io are either injured, i.e. Bianca Belair, or they were in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Oh, Pratik, there's no intention of doing that anymore. The other Mike said, did you play sports when you were a child? Kinda. There is a long story about me in football. The answer essentially is not really. Grew up with a single mum and nobody really could afford to watch Sky Sports. So my only memories of football are things like the World Cup. And the reason I'm a Liverpool fan is because the first thing I remember is Argentina 1998. Young kid called Michael Owen coming on and making me care about football. That's how I started being a Liverpool fan. The first club game I watched was a European competition near the middle of 2015. Near the middle of 2005. If you're a Liverpool fan, you know exactly which match I'm talking about, and I was spoiled. Unique Unicorn is hoping that LA ends up in a feud with Seth. Hector says, I really hope Goldberg doesn't give himself a concussion before the match this time, because Gunther definitely deserves better than that kind of opponent. JC says, I'd like to see Randy Orton get one more run as a villain of the company. The day will come. Eric says, who do you see cashing in first, Naomi or Seth? Personally, I would go with Seth. Declan says, just put the World Women's Championship on Becky. Make it make sense. Well, I mean, she's putting over Lyra Valkyria and making something new happen. That's what she's doing. Yes, Chris, that is exactly the match. Noob says, I hope that we're getting a feud between Asuka and Io Sky this summer. That's the only person that Io hasn't feuded with. Bailey says, Tom, have you or do you ever watch American college football? No, I don't find it that high tempo or exciting. Pratik says, which one watch was your favourite WWE pay-per-view of 2025? Probably WrestleMania Night 2, apart from the main event. SNH says, Jay the mystery spot at Fatal 4-Way? Yes, he is. McCade says, do you see Kiana James return tonight? X is saying she's backstage. Would it be a return if she never actually debuted? Don't know on that one. Hard to say. Pratik loved the Elimination Chamber, and Bob John is not loving the fact that I'm a Liverpool fan. I started properly supporting Liverpool in 2010 when Roy Hodgson was the manager. I've paid my goddamn dues. And today we got Florian Wirtz. What is life? Let's talk Evolution and let's talk Jade Cargill, because we have conflicting reports about what Jade Cargill will be doing at Evolution. PW Nexus have reported that Jade Cargill versus Charlotte Flair is the match that will be taking place at Evolution 2, and they reported this before Evolution 2 was announced. PWInsider are now reporting that it's Jade Cargill versus Naomi at Evolution 2. Given that Naomi has a briefcase, surely she's going to be aiming for Tiffany Stratton rather than Jade Cargill again. But, as I've previously reported, Naomi's briefcase win is not necessarily for the further glory of Naomi. While it will draw a lot of attention to her, the long-term gain will be Jade Cargill's rather than Naomi's. The long-term gain will be for Jade Cargill. Khalid says, Tom, thanks for telling us Jacob Fatu would turn on Solo. One of those stories I thankfully had a long time ago. Pratik, no. As regards Vince Russo, I do not focus on anything involved. Chris says, that was a tough time. It was indeed. Unique Unicorn says, I come here for all the news. Trust Tom 100%. Thank you. Thank you. No, Eric, I very much do not. KJ says, Kiana did debut a while back on Raw. She got hurt, getting an ACL tear. She's been seen with a knee brace and she's been gone close to a year. I genuinely do not recall a single second of her actually wrestling on Raw. I remember her being backstage. That's all. I remember her popping up and then popping out and then going away. Bob John says, will Solo be on SmackDown tonight when you see Tama and Tonga Loa returning? More on that shortly as I discuss the rumours of Hikulio. Gotcha. Thank you, McCade. She was in a Money in the Bank qualifier against Io and Natalia. What a long time ago. Nothing too big or memorable. Yeah, fair. Maybe I didn't watch that week. Sometimes I don't. Pratik says, I'm going to AEW All In. Are you going? Personally, no, I'm not. Live in the UK, not really an option. SNH says, has Jacob Fatu turned heel or face? I think he stayed face. Crowd have been chanting his name for a long time. They fucking love this guy. So yeah, I'd say he was turned face quite a while back. Shawn Michaels is said to have specifically requested a Mr. Iguana run in NXT, believing that his overall character could transition very smoothly to the black and gold brand. Though some are concerned about the translation to the main roster, Mr. Iguana is already drawing favourable comparisons to Santino Marella, which at this point is quite high praise indeed. Mr. Iguana caught a lot of attention at Worlds Collide. Shawn Michaels himself is apparently a fan and very eager to work with him. Khalid says, I can't wait to go to All in London, hopefully to see Edge and Will Ospreay. Pratik says, I love to see the Y6 attack Solo and his new Bloodline members. Far too early in the day for that. We are going to see tonight a very different looking Bloodline. Hector says, Tom, I'd love to see Nick Khan's cost-benefit analysis for Omos, especially if him legit never on TV with people like Shinsuke and Karrion having expiring contracts. I just want it to make sense. I'm with you. I'm confused by some of these decisions. However, they're his decisions to make. It says, Mr. Iguana was a bunch of fun. Bob John says, we need a Santino versus Iguana match. Cobra versus Iguana. Book it. Pratik is saying, what's next for the Wyatt Six? The Tag Team Championships, the Tag Team Division on SmackDown, before we see some changes and people moving over to Raw. There was no sign of the rumoured appearance from either Goldberg or Roman Reigns at either Money in the Bank or the Raw afterwards during the World Heavyweight Championship match. Instead, what we saw is Gunther's clean defeat of Jey Uso and his recapture of the World Heavyweight Championship. But I can confirm WWE's intentions are to have Goldberg challenge Gunther for the championship in Atlanta at Saturday night's main event. Prepare for Jey Uso's brief but intense championship reign to be brushed aggressively under the carpet, as though Gunther never lost the gold in the first place. I would be very confused to see Jey Uso picking the gold back up anytime soon. Khalid says, I enjoy watching Tom stream. You're my favourite streamer. Thank you, Khalid. I appreciate you for that. Pratik says, when is the WWE draft coming? WWE are pitching a number of different possibilities at the moment. Right now, it's been cancelled indefinitely, but they have got people in the creative team trying to work out the right time to go again. Khalid says, when do you see Roman returning? I would expect he will return after Saturday night main event in the build-up to SummerSlam, and I'm expecting Roman Reigns either against Braun Breaker or against Seth Rollins. Ron says, kind of funny that Karrion Kross is hoping Jon Moxley returns to WWE. Unfortunately, Tom Colohue reported he will most likely be leaving over the name Killer Kross. Most likely at this point in time, yes, Karrion Kross will be leaving the WWE. Cecil says, is it possible we move Jey Uso to SmackDown in exchange for LA Knight? It's not impossible, but it's unlikely given that there are other moves planned. Eric says, why are they trying to bury Jay's title reign? They're not trying to bury Jay's title reign. If that was the case, he wouldn't have had so many successful defenses and been so involved in the main event scene. They're trying to move on, is what they're trying to do. Pratik says, I do not see Goldberg returning this coming Monday. That is in regards to a PWInsider report. Leon says, it seems like Triple H is wanting to get the Jey Uso reign over and done with. Declan says, I could see Becky winning the Royal Rumble next year. Pratik thinks Goldberg is not coming back. Sid is saying, is Blackpool a nice place to live? It's nice enough. Like, there are definitely some rougher areas. There are definitely some poorer areas. But there's also some very nice areas. And in fact, some areas which the government are planning to invest quite a lot of money in over the next few years. So, yeah, can't say I hate it. Hector says, I know Gunther is a professional, would never say this. But it's kind of lame that the only reason Gunther is getting the world title again is just to facilitate a Goldberg retirement match. It's not the only reason, but it is a big part of the reason. Michael says, Michael Cole will no longer need his yeeting outfit. Jey Uso is not going anywhere. The championship reign is. The championship reign is. Jey Uso himself will still be yeeting. Eric says, I can see Liv and Sammy winning the Rumble next year. I'm still keeping my eye on Aleister Black. Just keeping my eye on it. Bailey says, per Business Insider magazine, wow, what a source, Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer Company is trying to buy the Hooters restaurant chain out of bankruptcy. Of course Hulk Hogan wants to own Hooters. What else is new? Sid says, Jey Uso never defended the world title at a PLE. Nobody did defend the world title. Khalid says, I've been here since the Bray Wyatt news on his return in 2022, so I appreciate you, man. That was a long time ago, and it was one of the main reasons that so many of you are here and are still with me. For those unaware, when Bray Wyatt did return to the WWE a month beforehand, I was able to launch a live show declaring that it was going to happen. The other mic, I'm not sure. I'd need to check the dates. I've forgotten at this point in time. Cecil says, here's a crazy random question. Is there two different titles, one for the road and one for TV? No. No, there are multiple titles. However, that is... the multiple titles are essentially because anyone who wins the championship keeps it. And thus anyone who newly wins it has to get a different one. Unique Unicorn, I was not actually predicting Bray's return. I was reporting Bray's return. Something worth reminding everyone who likes to jump on social media and accuse me of lying. You certainly didn't have that one. Bismo says, good evening, Tom. I'm late tuning in, so going to rewind and catch up. No problem, Bismo. We'll see you when you caught up. And Carmelina says, do you think that Jay is going to King of the Ring? I think he's going to be involved. Yes. Eric has been here since SummerSlam 2022. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the one where I said Becky Lynch was returning? Or was that 2021? That might be 2021. But yeah, I had that prediction as well. or, report. Ray is asking my favourite match of 2025. Lots of good ones. I'd be hard-pressed to think of one right now on the spot. Blue says, Punk made the decision. He signed the contract. Kind of annoyed with folks acting otherwise. He made his decision. He did indeed. No one is forcing him, but he was convinced in the first place. No need to apologise, Unique Unicorn. No need to apologise. Thank you, Ed. Ed says, the Saudi show is at the end of this month. Saturday night main event is in the beginning of July. And we will be hosting a watch party for Evolution. Eric says, do you get to keep the Money in the Bank briefcase after you cash in? Yes, you do. Pratik, 1, Vince McMahon is not buying WWE. 2, he can't buy WWE from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia do not own the WWE. Don't know what else to tell you. SNH says, why is WWE so unpredictable these days? Because Triple H knows how to keep you guessing. Bob John says, don't tell me Goldberg will win the World Heavyweight Championship. We don't need to repeat of Super Showdown. He's trying. You know he's trying. You have indeed, Ed. I still remember the channel on which we found each other. And you've been here ever since, right from the beginning. I mean, you're not wrong, SNH. You're not wrong. I do show up before every show and start spoiling things. The show's called Spoiler Warning. I ain't going to apologise for it. Blue says, is King of the Ring an event or will the winners be crowned on other shows? The winners will be crowned on other shows. One says, been here since the day you reported Mercedes Money will be AEW bound since Nick Khan said no to the Money name. Still holds true to this day. And years later, we started seeing that report come up elsewhere, didn't we? Chris, thank you very kindly. Says, keep the good news coming, Tom, and offers a generous donation of 5 English pounds. Thank you very kindly for that. That's 5 squats, as you know. So I'm going to do my 5 squats, and then we're going to go from there. I'm just going to quickly check whether the monetization system is coming through, because it is telling me it isn't, and it really should be. There it is. Something went wrong there. So 5 squats, 5 bits of exercise. Chris, here we go. Thank you kindly for that. Ooh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh. That is 22 squats so far during the show. You're definitely keeping me working, guys. Bob Johnson's been here since your November 24th, 2019 video. Amazing rise, Tom. That was literally the very first video I did, was it not? I do remember the name. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate your continued generosity. Khalid says, you did report Bayley's return in 2022, which came true. Yes, and I do believe people were banned on Twitter for calling out another wrestling journalist who months later reported that Bayley was cleared and just waiting for the right storyline in the build, to SummerSlam, when she returned. Ooh. Carmelina says, I think the Usos are going to get back together soon. I've mentioned that a few times. Roy says, do you think Brie Mode's theme is the worst theme music of all time? NX Steve said that on the SCW YouTube podcast. No, I think there are worse. Gilberg, for example, that wasn't great. Cecil says, here's another. Does a new champion still get the company private plane ride? Plane? No, they've really cut down on private plane travel. I'm getting to it, Declan, don't you worry. Bob John, Ilya Dragunov is not cleared to my knowledge. Pratik, you're saying, why is no one talking about this? You're actively talking about it. Roy said, did you like Cena saying that I'm the greatest of all time and CM Punk is the best in the world? Why not? Why not? Bismo says, okay, funny question to you, Tom. If a viewer donated to you 1 million Japanese yen, how many squats do you do? I don't know, but we do have a little tab here that says chat revenue and tells me how much has been donated in pounds. So what would happen is that would be translated into pounds, and that will tell you how much. We can actually work this out. We can work this out using our good friend Google. 1 million yen to pounds. So how much would I do? That is £5,116. So I would be doing 5,116 squats. It would probably take me a while. We're talking like 2 months. But I would do it. I would do it. I don't see that happening, but that is the pledge that I've made, and that is a pledge that I would be following through with. Bob John says, Guerrillas of Destiny versus the Lucha Bros versus MCMG versus the Usos clash in Paris. Bucket. Marcel said, just had an ad on YouTube. Thank you for letting me know, Marcel. YouTube does add those in. It does put them in now when it chooses to, which is at times frustrating. Eric says, who do you see dethroning Cody and Trick? As in Cody Rhodes? He's not currently a champion. Ed says, SNME having ropes in those colours are because of it being what they did back in the day. Yeah, it's a throwback. It's a throwback. So it says, do you get paid well from YouTube? Relatively well. Certainly, I would do this for free. So the fact that I do get ad revenue as well comes as a very big plus. When it comes to the ad revenue, I make about $40 a month on that. I make about $60 a month on channel memberships. Thank you very much to all of the channel members, by the way. If you have ever considered becoming a channel member, now's a great time to do it. It does go directly into my pocket and help support the channel. Though I will say there is a lack of behind the scenes content and members only content. I do still very much appreciate it. And then the rest of what we make here on YouTube is in the generosity of yourselves and individuals. The same can be said of TikTok, where the only money I make is via the donation system. There are other offers that are made via TikTok to work with commissions and so on, but I'm simply not big enough to guarantee views. So that's why. Cena and Trick. I'm waiting on that one. Trick, I don't know. For Cena, I'm still thinking of Jacob Fatu, but that might just be me. Michael says, Cody tries his hardest to rewrite history, claiming he was a leader of Bullet Club. That does then mean that there are 3 leaders of Bullet Club. Declan says, if WWE doing Saturday Night Main Event, they need a smoke machine to be authentic to replace cigarette smoking. I like it. OLE says, hello, Tom. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday to you all. Welcome, OLE. Dropped into one of your shows a couple of days ago. I believe it was a football transfer window show. Mark was talking. It was before we got Florian Wirtz. I'm interested to see your response to that. Unique says, really would buy membership if I could afford to. Would love to be able to help support your channel. No worries, Unique Unicorn. At no point does anyone need to donate anything. Okay? That's not what we do here. That is not what we do. You have earned your money. It is your money to do with what you will. That is all. Bailey, I do not trade in Bitcoin, and as such, I would not be doing squats for Bitcoin. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Bob John says, since the 2026 Rumble is in Saudi, I'm guessing there won't be a watch-along. There will not. There wasn't a watch-along this year either. The Royal Rumble, I just got together with some friends and had a few drinks. SNH says, any chance Punk dethrones Cena? None whatsoever. None. None whatsoever. Next piece of news. I've read that one. We're up to here. WWE have given themselves a number of options for the future of Bianca Belair, particularly at SummerSlam, and they are planning a program around her, but aren't certain that she'll be back to full force in time. So they are planning an option to protect her using a tag team match. With this in mind, the favoured options at the moment include a one-on-one against Jade Cargill, or a tag team match where she would team with Jade Cargill against a team of Naomi and Nia Jax. WWE still aren't certain how and when to do a Bianca Belair heel turn, but it is very much coming. SNH, Becky wasn't dressed like Roman. Roman is always topless, and that would technically be illegal for Becky Lynch. Welcome, Carl. Good to see you. Says, hey, Tom. Hope you and your family are well. Doing very well. Thank you. Slowly but surely, the house continues to come together. Dominic says, hi, Tom. Just wondering if is there championships in the future for Stephanie Vaquer? Yes. And Roxanne Perez? Yes. Any fees for Nakamura? No. Or AJ Styles? Depends if you signed a new contract. Thank you. How do I get a membership? Dominic, thank you very kindly for all those questions. Hopefully you are happy with the responses. Let's go and find out, shall we? I'm going to go to my own channel because I'm confident there should be, just underneath the show, a join button. So underneath the show that you're watching right now, there should be a button that just says join. Yep, so I can see it. The title says CM Punk versus John Cena one last time. Under that and to the left, there's a picture of me, which you can click if you want to go back to the channel. To the right of that, there is a join button. That is how you become a channel member, if you would so like. Thank you. Cal says, do you think we'll see the Wyatt Six tonight? Some of them. Declan says, Bianca should join Becky as a heel. That is indeed the plan. Okay, so Pratik, I've been letting you sort of pop off, as it were. This one, though, seems ridiculous. It says Vince would never allow advertisement on the ring and the Prime logo in WWE. Of course he would. Vince McMahon's every choice was about making more money. That is all. Chris says Bianca needs to turn heel as she got so stale as a face. And Unique Unicorn says, is there a chance Lyra turns heel with Becky? It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely at this point in time. They're trying to get her over as a face, and they don't want to muddy the water, so to speak. Cal says, I feel like Roxanne is on fire at the moment. I feel like she could be champ this year. Next piece of news, similar to what I've just said as regards tag team matches, the WWE has two options for the Bellas at Evolution. There are, and I can confirm this, active negotiations to bring back Brie Bella alongside Nikki Bella. The intention for this would be to have the Bella twins defeat Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez at Evolution, allowing the further demolition of Judgment Day, as well as one final hurrah run for the Bellas as tag team champions. If Brie Bella does not return, they still have the option that they've already started pushing of Nikki Bella versus Liv Morgan. Nikki Bella is said to be a big fan of Liv Morgan's work and is very eager to give her as much spotlight as possible. WWE are looking at this as a marquee match that gives opportunities, and huge opportunities indeed, to get more attention on Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan will be back in the World Heavyweight Championship picture relatively soon, and as such, the WWE are eager to take the championships away, the tag team championships, to spare room for that World Heavyweight Championship. Ed says Vince loved money so much he took the company public, then signed that 10-year deal with Saudi. Yeah, the man wanted all the cash. Cal says people have rewritten history with Vince. He literally had a match with zombies during COVID for some zombie game/film. He did indeed. It was awkward. Can't say as I enjoyed it. Cal says Vince legit made Undertaker wrestle Goldberg knowing how unsafe it was for money. To be fair, he didn't know what was going to happen in that match, but he should have known better than to put anyone in there. Christopher Leclerc says happy 54th birthday to Mark Henry, and Unique Unicorn says the zombie match was crazy. Yeah, people tend to forget things like that. The man wanted to make money. It's very clear. Sid says he's enjoying AEW and TNA more than WWE. Bob John says Punk, Randy and Cody all in the final months of the final run. I wonder who the opponents will be in the final few months. Randy Orton's got years left, mate. Years. Punk has years left. Cody's got years left. They got a long time yet. Bismo says, no offense to the Bella twins, I'd rather watch paint dry than their matches. Michael says they could put a lot more into getting Stephanie and Julia over than to bring back the Bellas. They, I'm sure, will still have something at Evolution, but WWE are trying to sort of justify the viewership. Carl is happy that Nikki Bella is back. Rick Hansen just got here. I don't know if you addressed the rumours of Hikulio being backstage tonight at SmackDown. Not yet, but it's coming. And Cal says CM Punk sold out to that blood money. If you want more information as regards CM Punk, drop back to the beginning of the show. Plans are afoot to move Jimmy Uso to Raw, away from what is now a direct Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu storyline that Jimmy Uso does not have much longer to feature in. This would then allow the WWE to reunite the Usos as they hunt once again for historic tag team gold. The New Day are already doing what they can to tease the idea of making history, the Usos are the only team that could legitimately state their case as the top team in wrestling history against the New Day. Also, as regards to Hikulio, PWInsider are reporting that Hikulio, formerly of New Japan, is expected backstage at tonight's SmackDown to potentially pick a side in the Bloodline versus Bloodline battle. Producers that have worked with Hikulio in NXT are said to have been open in their belief that he is not ready for that spotlight, but SmackDown writers are said to be concerned about the lack of bodies in and around this group now. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa will eventually have to pick sides, but they need someone who's going to pick sides, and JC Mateo, very obviously, is still on Solo's side. My expectation is that Hikulio will join Solo. The three of them will beat down Jacob Fatu, and then the return of Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa will even the odds. Cal says, we shocked Gunther beat Jay. I don't think Jay suited being champion. It's hard to play the underdog when you're champion. Gunther is a proper champ. I was personally surprised, yes. Michael says, are you going to watch New Japan Dominion this week? Yes, I am. A lot of my favourites are no longer in the company, but they still have Takagi Shingo. They still have Zack Sabre Jr. There are options. The other Mike says, I feel like a litmus test for who's a great person is their thoughts on Bianca Belair. Who the hell dislikes Bianca Belair? Unique Unicorn says, the New Day clown Jay losing his title in a backstage segment. Bob John says, Jacob siding with Tama and Tonga Loa. Interesting. I would go the other way around. Tama and Tonga joining Jacob. And then we get a lovely 6-man tag. The other Mike says, Usos versus New Day again. Let's go. Cal suggests Lucha Brothers versus New Day versus Street Profits versus Usos. Ladder match next Mania, in my opinion. Bismo says, any word on any of the AAA wrestlers going to Raw or SmackDown? Heard of Mr. Iguana, but any others? There are a couple more that have been mentioned. Octagon Jr. has been mentioned, as has Vikingo. Bailey says, with Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan having filmed small roles in movies, who's the next WWE performer tapped to be working on films? Drew McIntyre is what I previously reported in answer to that one. Gotcha, Bob John. Totally get what you're saying now. Cal says, Gunther Goldberg in Saudi then? Not the plan at this point in time. A last thing I do want to mention quickly is a quick preview of SummerSlam. Now, we've spoken about previously what's going to be happening at SummerSlam. I've given you lots of sort of tidbits, and I just want to compile them here. The WWE are planning a few matches and a few rematches at SummerSlam. The main event looks set to be a rematch between Cody Rhodes and John Cena, and this kind of suggests that that's the spoiler for the King of the Ring tournament. If Cody Rhodes picks up the win, he's the one who gets the match at SummerSlam after all. Sorry guys, pardon me, it's nearly 11 o'clock over here. There was a plan for a Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu feud over the United States Championship. However, my suspicion is that Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu, or at least our first incarnation, would be taking place at SummerSlam. That is when I think we'll get our 6-man tag match. I think instead what we're going to see is Drew McIntyre challenging Solo Sikoa when Solo Sikoa becomes the United States Champion via hook and by a crock. Becky Lynch will be challenged by Bayley for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. The actual women's top belts are harder to mention, but Bianca Belair is currently being pitched for a match with either Jade Cargill or a match alongside Jade Cargill. So there's a lot that could be going on at SummerSlam. Personally, I think the heel turn will have already taken place, and we move into Belair versus Jade Cargill at SummerSlam. Charlotte Flair looks set to get involved with Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss is rumoured to be looking at Tiffany Stratton. Roman Reigns is set to return in time for SummerSlam. 2 rumoured matches at the moment involve either Bron Breakker or Seth Rollins. There are also rumours that CM Punk could be wrestling Bron Breakker in the near future also. With SummerSlam being a 2-night event, they do need options for that. Rusev, despite returning recently, looks like he will not make the card. However, Aleister Black is someone that the WWE are planning to put a lot of attention into, And I would suspect SummerSlam would be a great time to get him involved in something for championships. I'd have my eye on the Intercontinental Championship held at that time. We'll see. Because I suspect at SummerSlam we will see Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship, with Finn Balor winning the Intercontinental Championship once again. Bob John, I'm going through everything I know for SummerSlam right now. I also think SummerSlam is the obvious choice to have the Usos versus the New Day, and I'm hoping that the Wyatt Six will actually have a PLE match on the SummerSlam card. Personally, it looks like we may see a 6-person tag. 2 members of the Wyatt Six and Nikki Cross versus Candice LeRae, Tommaso Ciampa, and Johnny Gargano of DIY. As more matches become apparent, and as I get more information on them, I will share more information about what the plans are for SummerSlam. But for now, I just wanted to share those tidbits. Yes, Cal, we are definitely building up to Cody versus Randy. Ooh. Anthony says, how are you enjoying your amazing Friday? It's amazing, mate. Been plenty of sun, also a bit of rain, but lots of squats, what can I say? The other Mike, I do expect Drew McIntyre back before SummerSlam. And Paul says, the Inspiration, aka the Iconics, returned to TNA against all odds. I did see that. WWE was interested for a long time. Nick can't put an end to that one. Rickon says, wonder if this whole bloodline thing leads to Zilla eventually joining WWE, since him and Jacob used to tag outside of WWE. Sid says, Rikishi says, WWE writers should be fired for Jey Uso's short title reign, and says, you didn't do him justice. Of course he said that. Valencia says, a lot of people speak negatively about Bill Goldberg, but he couldn't have been nicer when I met him, took an extra picture of me for free and was super kind. Christopher says, what is Roxanne Perez doing at SummerSlam if she doesn't win the Queen of the Ring tournament? I'd have my eye on Roxanne Perez versus Liv Morgan. The other Mike says, Gunther versus Aleister Black for the World Heavyweight Championship has money all over it. I heartily agree. Cal says, I remember you saying a few months ago the second phase of the Whites would be much darker. They do feel that now, in my opinion. I don't think we've really actually had the first phase that was planned. Eric, God is fictional. That's the argument. We've been live for 57 minutes. We're going to wrap it up now. For those not aware, when I shut down the stream on YouTube, I do tend to click the add button quite a bit. Just increases the revenue for anyone who basically stays here and is not really paying attention. So if we've got lurkers, they get a lot of ads. Even if they don't see them, I still get paid. So that's just something we do. In the meantime, though, I want to say a big thank you to all of you for joining me. I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.